INFJ, you have spent years convincing yourself that being the quiet strength in the room, the one who absorbs storms, the one who sacrifices, the one who erases themselves for the sake of love, loyalty, or harmony, would somehow make others treasure you, would somehow make others stop, turn, and see the depth of your devotion, the purity of your intentions, the quiet beauty of your restraint. But instead of being valued, instead of being seen, you have been consumed, you have been overlooked, you have been made invisible in the very spaces where you bled silently for the comfort of others. And this truth is not just painful, it is devastating, because it dismantles the illusion you have carried for so long, the illusion that love equals self-erasure, that worth equals silence, that value equals suppression. And today, we are going to tear apart that illusion together, slowly, painfully, but with the fire of clarity, because INFJ, you deserve to stop suppressing, stop drowning, and start breathing again. 1. The root of the INFJ's silent sacrifice. From the earliest moments of your life, INFJ, before you even had language to shape your feelings, you were absorbing the emotional weather around you, noticing the sighs in your parents' voices, the shadows in their expressions, the tensions unspoken but thick in the room. And because you were so sensitive, because you were so finely tuned to the inner storms of others, you learned, without anyone needing to instruct you, that your role was to smooth, to stabilize, to shrink, and to become the quiet guardian of balance. When you cried, perhaps you were told you were too much, too needy, too dramatic, and so you stopped crying. When you asked for something, perhaps you saw the weariness in their eyes, the heaviness in their tone, and so you swallowed the request. When you showed too much individuality, too much independence, perhaps you felt the sting of rejection or misunderstanding, and so you dimmed your light. This training wasn't spoken, it was absorbed, internalized, etched into your nervous system until it became second nature, until you no longer even questioned whether your needs mattered, because all that mattered was survival, acceptance, belonging. And so began the INFJ's silent sacrifice, the burying of their own hunger beneath the endless appetite of others. 2. The illusion of value through self-erasure. Here lies the cruel illusion that if you give enough, if you listen enough, if you anticipate enough, if you pour enough of yourself into the cracks of others, eventually they will stop, notice, and value you. But this is a lie. Because the more you erase yourself for others, the more invisible you become. The more you silence your desires, the more people forget you even have them. The more you bend to meet their every need, the less they recognize the cost of your bending. Human beings rarely value what feels infinite, and when you give yourself without boundary, when you make yourself endlessly available, you train others to consume you without gratitude, without pause, without thought. What feels to you like loyalty, devotion, and unconditional love communicates to others that your time, your energy, your identity are free commodities, endlessly renewable, costless to them, but devastatingly expensive to you. And so, instead of being cherished, you become background noise, the quiet hum that supports their song but is never heard as music itself. 3. The psychological damage of need suppression. Suppression doesn't just cost you your voice, INFJ, it costs you yourself. Needs are not frivolous wants, they are signals of identity, messengers of the soul, indicators of who you are and what makes you alive, and every time you silence one of them, every time you push it down for the sake of another, you are not just ignoring a whim, you are amputating a part of yourself. Over time, this self-amputation leaves you hollow. You begin to feel like a ghost in your own life. You look around at the relationships you've built, the roles you've played, and you realize that while everyone else feels nourished, fed, supported, you feel depleted, starved, and unrecognizable to yourself. This double bind, where you are both exhausted from giving and empty from never receiving, creates the unique INFJ crisis of burnout, that haunting state where you can no longer pour from your cup because it has been shattered from neglect, and in this burnout, depression, despair, or sudden explosive withdrawal emerge, shocking everyone around you because they never realized how much you were suppressing all along. 4. The myth of, if I give enough, they will change. INFJs often carry a dangerous mantra. If I keep giving, if I keep forgiving, if I keep showing up, then one day they will finally see me, they will change, they will recognize the depth of my sacrifice and love me back the way I long to be loved. But people rarely transform because you erased yourself for them. They transform when they are confronted with truth, with boundaries, with consequences. The INFJ's silent endurance doesn't inspire change, it enables stagnation. By continuously absorbing hurt, neglect, or imbalance, you do not teach people to value you. You teach them that they don't have to. And so, instead of your grand moment of recognition, instead of the cinematic scene where they fall to their knees in gratitude, you are left with disappointment, resentment, and the bitter awareness that the more you gave, the less you were seen. 5. Why INFJs equate love with self-denial. Why does this pattern run so deep? Why do INFJs continue to choose self-denial as proof of love? Because long ago, you were taught, implicitly or explicitly, that love must be earned through sacrifice. You were praised when you were easy, when you were quiet, when you were helpful. You were scolded, mocked, or dismissed when you were needy, when you were loud, when you dared to claim space. So you internalized the belief that to be lovable is to be small. That to be worthy is to be selfless. That to be safe is to be invisible. And this tragic equation follows you into adulthood like a ghost, whispering that every time you put yourself first, you are risking rejection, abandonment, or punishment, and so you retreat into silence, believing that betraying yourself is the price of keeping love. But INFJ, this is not love. This is conditioning. 6. The invisible resentment that builds. Even though you can silence your needs, INFJ, your soul does not forget. Every swallowed word becomes a scar. Every unspoken need becomes a quiet resentment. Every time you choose silence over honesty, you carve a wound into your own heart. And over time, these wounds accumulate. They fester beneath your smiles. They hide behind your kindness. They simmer beneath your acts of service. Until one day, you explode, or you vanish, or you collapse into despair, and the people around you are shocked, confused, blindsided, because they never saw the storm beneath the surface, never realized how much pain was buried under your calm exterior, never understood that your quiet devotion was laced with bitterness and exhaustion. This is the danger of need suppression. It builds resentment that corrodes the love you were trying to protect. 7. The double standard of value. Here is the heartbreaking double standard. While you, INFJ, bend, break, and reshape yourself to meet the needs of others, you discover that when the roles reverse, when you finally whisper your own desires, the response is silence, indifference, or even dismissal. You realize that while you sacrificed endlessly for them, they cannot, or will not, sacrifice for you. And this realization cuts deep, because it forces you to confront the imbalance you've been tolerating, the painful truth that your devotion is not mirrored, your loyalty is not reciprocated, your sacrifices are not seen as sacred but as expected. This double standard doesn't just hurt, it dismantles your sense of worth, leaving you to wonder whether you matter at all outside of what you can give. 8. The identity crisis of need suppression. Suppression doesn't just cost you relationships, INFJ, it costs you yourself. When you suppress your needs for too long, you wake up one day and realize you no longer know who you are. You don't know what you enjoy, because your life has been built around the enjoyment of others. You don't know what you believe, because you've been carrying the beliefs of others. You don't know what you dream of, because you've been investing all your energy into the dreams of others. And this realization is terrifying, because you, who have always prided yourself on self-awareness, suddenly see a stranger in the mirror, a hollowed-out shell where a vibrant soul should be, and you are forced to ask the question you have avoided for so long. Who am I, apart from what I give? 9. The fear of abandonment that fuels suppression. The reason you silence yourself, INFJ, the reason you suppress your needs, is because you are terrified of abandonment. You are terrified that if you show too much, want too much, need too much, people will walk away. This fear is not unfounded, it is rooted in your past. Moments where you felt disposable. Moments where your needs were mocked, minimized, or punished. Moments where love felt conditional on your compliance. So you built your strategy. Be silent, be small, be accommodating, and maybe they'll stay. And in the short term, it worked. They did stay. But in the long term, you realize they never stayed for you. They stayed for what you gave. And this realization is more devastating than abandonment itself. 10. The power of boundaries as love. Here is the truth you must learn. INFJ. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out, they're doors to invite the right people in. Every time you say, no, when your soul is tired, you teach people that your energy is sacred. Every time you ask for what you truly need, you teach people that your voice matters. Every time you refuse to carry emotional weight that is not yours, you teach people that you are not a vessel for exploitation but a human worthy of reciprocity. Boundaries do not destroy love, they protect it. Love without boundaries is exploitation. Love with boundaries is respect. And only through that respect can your needs stand alongside your love, not buried beneath it. 11. The transformation of self-value. When you finally stop suppressing your needs, INFJ, something miraculous happens. You begin to value yourself. Not for what you give. Not for how invisible you can become. But simply for existing, for being, for bringing your unique soul into the world. And this self-value radiates outward. It changes the way you speak. It changes the way you walk into rooms. It changes the energy you carry. And suddenly, others begin to respect you more, because you respect yourself. Others begin to listen more, because you listen to yourself. Others begin to give more, because you have shown them how to. Yes, you may lose some relationships, the ones built only on your silence will fall away. But what remains will be real, nourishing, reciprocal. And for the first time, you will know what it feels like to be loved not for your self-erasure, but for your wholeness. 12. The courage to be difficult. For you, INFJ, the most terrifying step is this. Risking being seen as difficult, risking being called demanding. Risking being misunderstood. But here is the secret. Being labeled difficult by people who only loved your compliance is not a loss, it is liberation. Because true love does not require you to vanish. True love makes space for your desires. True love celebrates your quirks, your hungers, your complexity. And when you risk being misunderstood in order to honor yourself, you discover that the relationships worth keeping will not crumble, they will deepen. 13. The reclamation of voice. Suppressing needs steals your voice, INFJ. Reclaiming them restores it. When you finally say, I need rest. I need you to listen. I need support too. You are not just speaking to others. You are speaking to yourself. You are reintroducing yourself to your own soul. You are healing the younger version of you who was silenced, ignored, or punished. And in that moment, you are rewriting the story you were given, the one that told you love requires silence. 14. The life INFJs deserve. INFJ, you were not born to be invisible. You were not designed to be a shadow. You were created to bring depth, vision, empathy, and truth into the world. But that requires you to be whole, not hollow. Vibrant, not depleted. Courageous enough to stand in your own light even when others expect your darkness. The life you deserve is one where your needs are not shameful but sacred. Where your love is not conditional upon your silence but celebrated because it flows from wholeness. And when you step into that life, you will not only be valued, you will finally value yourself. So hear me, INFJ. Suppressing your needs will not make them value you. It will only teach them how to overlook you. Yes, it is terrifying. Yes, it feels unnatural after years of silence. Yes, you will risk being misunderstood. But the most radical act of love you can give the world is to love yourself enough to speak, to stand, to stay. And in doing so, you will discover that the ones who truly belong in your life will never leave because you had needs. They will stay because your needs made the relationship real.